After the incident with Connor, Jessica ignored all of Kevin's texts and calls. She couldn't believe Kevin had told his brother her biggest secret. She knew Connor would be sure to tell all of his friends, and any of Kevin's friends who came to the house, she would be the biggest laughingstock around. She felt so stupid, not just because she was nothing but a little bedwetter, but because she had trusted Kevin, who had obviously just been waiting for the right moment to embarrass her. Waiting until he knew she trusted him completely, and then humiliating her in front of everyone. She knew it would only be a matter of time before he told everyone. She couldn't believe she'd let him take the photograph of her in just her diaper. She bet he would show it to everybody now. He probably couldn't believe how perfectly his plan to humiliate her had worked. Kevin had even called in at Jessica's house a couple of times. Her parents had been out on both occasions, and she had ignored the doorbell until he had gone away. She wished he would just give up and leave her alone. She didn't ever want to see him again. She didn't want to hear what he had to say. She just wanted him out of her life, and things to go back to the way they were before he ever knew that she was a bedwetter. Jessica was woken by her mom knocking on her bedroom door. "Jessica, sweetie, Kevin's here to see you." "I don't feel well," Jessica lied. "Can you send him away?" "Did you have an accident again last night?" Jessica's mom asked. "No," Jessica lied, her wet diaper bulging between her legs. Since Jessica had discovered diapers, she had been wearing them at home, ordering them over the internet using her debit card. Her mother had noticed the lack of wet sheets to be washed, and when she had asked Jessica about it, Jessica had been far too embarrassed to admit to wearing diapers, and so had instead lied and said that she had just stopped wetting the bed. Her mother, having been told by numerous doctors that Jessica would eventually outgrow her nighttime accidents, had found no reason to disbelieve Jessica's lie, and had seemed so proud that Jessica couldn't tell her the truth now and risk letting her down. Of course, not being able to tell her parents that she was still bedwetting meant that Jessica couldn't tell them that she had fallen out with Kevin, and so they were both under the impression that everything was fine between the young couple. "Well, I'll let him in quickly. He said he really needs to see you." It sounded important. "And maybe he'll help you to feel better." Before Jessica could protest, her mom was calling down the stairs for Kevin to come up. Jessica heard her mother's soft footsteps move down the stairs, followed by Kevin's louder ones making their way up them. "Hey Jess." Kevin stood nervously in the doorway, glancing at her quickly before looking away, unable to meet her eye. Although since she had last seen Kevin, fighting with his brother, Jessica had tried to stay strong, avoiding crying over him and giving him the satisfaction of really hurting her, on seeing him again she couldn't stop herself from breaking down in tears. "Go away," she sobbed. "I don't want to see you. You got what you wanted, can't you just leave me alone now?" Kevin looked hurt. "What do you mean I got what I wanted? Do you think I wanted this to happen?" He was crying now as well. "Do you really think that I wanted to hurt you? Of course I didn't. I love you. I could have murdered Connor, I really could have. I didn't tell him anything, I promise." Kevin paused, as if he was unsure of whether to say what was coming next. "You might hate me for this, it is my fault, that he knows I mean. After you wet my bed I was washing the sheets, and," he paused again, trying to find the words to say what he wanted, "my mom wanted to know why I was washing them. I never wash them, and I know I should have lied. I know I should have said we spilled a drink, or that it was me who wet the bed, but I told her the truth, not that I asked you to. I said it was an accident. I didn't even think. I knew she wouldn't say anything to anyone. I know she wouldn't think it was a big deal. She's a nurse, she deals with that kind of thing all the time. And she didn't say anything, but," he started to sob loudly. "Connor overheard. I didn't know he had, not until after that morning he came in, but he overheard and snuck into my room and found the nappies. I didn't know he knew, not until he burst into the room and said it. I really didn't. I could have killed him after he said that, probably would have if Mom hadn't come in and made me stop. She kicked me out and told me not to come back till the next day. She wouldn't listen to what I tried to say, just made me get out there, and then Connor made up a whole load of lies about what happened. She believed him at first, but when I came back I told her what happened, and I think she realized Connor was lying. She went ballistic at Connor. He's grounded for the rest of the summer, his pocket money has been stopped, and he's been given a list of chores as long as my arm to do while he's home." Kevin started to look guilty. Mom swore his life won't be worth living if he tells anyone else, but Kevin started to cry harder. He was sobbing so hard that he couldn't finish what he was saying for several minutes. "Connor got my phone. Afterwards, when I'd been kicked out, Mom didn't give me a chance to get it. She just made me leave there and then. Anyway, he texted a few people from my phone, pretending to be me, and he told them about, your bedwetting." Jessica was mortified. She felt frozen to the spot, her blood running cold through her body. She couldn't look at Kevin, couldn't even turn her head in his direction. She wanted to speak, to shout at him to get out, that he had ruined her life, but she couldn't make a sound, the tears flowing silently, her body racked with huge, silent sobs. She was shaking, she didn't know what to do, her secret was out, and she knew people would hate her for it. How could they not? It's not as bad as you think though, Kevin said. I didn't know he'd done it, but I got a whole load of texts from the people he told. Who did he tell? Jessica managed to whisper between sobs. No one we're not close to. I think he just texted the names he recognized. I looked in my sent items after I got a text about it and he only texted people he knows I'm friends with. Lucy and Ollie, Nick, Tom, and Dan. No one else I don't think. But you know none of them care, they all text back and none of them were laughing at you, all of them were having a go at me for sending out the text. They were all on your side, none of them care, all of them were saying it didn't matter. And I've cleared it up, I told them that Connor had taken my phone, I told them he had just made it up. I think Lucy guessed it was the truth, but everyone else believed me. But even if they didn't, they don't care, no one thinks any differently of you because of it. It's me they think badly of, not you. I'm not saying that because I want you to feel sorry for me, this is entirely my fault, I know that, but I don't like to see you like this, avoiding everyone. I don't like seeing you upset, I miss you. Jessica felt torn inside, she wanted to hate Kevin for all of this. Connor had texted half of her friends, now they all knew she was a bedwetter, and although Kevin said they didn't mind and that it didn't change the way they thought about her, how could that be true? Jessica had been convinced for her whole life that if her friends found out about her bedwetting that they would hate and bully her because of it, and it was hard for her to believe that it might just be accepted as part of her. She couldn't even fully trust Kevin's acceptance of it, let alone trust her friends. However, although half of her wanted to hate Kevin, the other half of Jessica loved him, and wanted to forgive him. She believed everything he had told her, she believed that he hadn't meant for Connor to find out, and how could she hate him for something that wasn't his fault? And if her friends really did accept her bedwetting then maybe, in some small way, the whole situation was a blessing. And she hated seeing Kevin cry, he seemed so deeply sorry, and what she wanted more than anything was for their arms to be wrapped around each other, embracing in forgiveness. Kevin moved towards Jessica's bed, she looked up at him, and, tears still running down both of their cheeks, they shared a salty kiss. The two lay on her bed, both glad to be back together, where they both felt they belonged. I was thinking, Jess, how would you like to move in with me? Not to my house, but maybe we could get a flat together. I've been looking around, and a one-bedroom flat isn't that expensive. I mean just for a bedroom, kitchen, bathroom, and little sitting room, nothing fancy. I think we could afford it, if you wanted to. I might have to ask for a few extra hours at the pub, but I'm sure that wouldn't be a problem. You don't have to answer now, I know this is a big thing to ask, and that you're still upset about Connor, but, that's why I think it would be better if we lived away from that, from him and parents. I mean, if we lived together we wouldn't have to worry about anyone finding out about anything. Jessica didn't answer Kevin's question, but she let her mind wander and imagine the two of them living together, waking up in the same bed every morning, not having to dispose of diapers secretly and have their ears constantly pricked in case one of their parents walked in on them. She imagined coming home from the cafe she worked at to Kevin, imagined the two of them eating together every evening, and then going to bed together as evening became night. Don't say yes or no yet, Kevin interrupted Jessica's thoughts, but just think about it, consider it. Okay, Jessica nodded, I would like to move out from home, but I don't know if I'm ready yet. I will think about it though. Kevin smiled lovingly at Jessica, will you think about coming to Dan's party on Friday night as well? We can stay over, his parents are away, everyone's gonna be there. And you won't even have to worry about staying up all night anymore, I can get you all tucked into bed, safe in a diaper, and you can sleep easy. Jessica wasn't sure, she hadn't seen any of her friends since Kevin's brother had told them her secret, and she was scared about facing them now they knew, just because Kevin had told them it wasn't true didn't mean they believed him. And wearing a diaper with Kevin was one thing, but wearing one at a party surrounded by all of her friends, most of whom would be looking for signs that she was a bedwetter, was another. She tried to tell this to Kevin, but he was convinced that nobody would notice. No one's going to be looking, not when you're in bed. Nobody cares whether you wet the bed or not, it doesn't matter to them. And I'll take care of you, I'll make sure no one comes in and sees your diaper or anything. Reluctantly, after a lot more persuading on Kevin's part, Jessica agreed to join him at the party. Jessica quickly gulped down the vodka and lemonade in her hand, she never usually allowed herself to get very drunk at parties as she knew the risk of falling asleep was too high, but tonight she didn't have to worry, she had two thick diapers hidden deep in her rucksack, and she knew Kevin would take care of her and ensure she was wearing one before she went to sleep. And so tonight Jessica was intent on enjoying herself, and she wasn't going to turn down any of the alcohol her friends were offering her. Jessica ended up drinking too much, and Kevin had to hold her hair back as she was sick into the basin of the toilet. She was dizzy and finding it difficult to stand up, nothing was making sense and, Feeling very helpless, Jessica was glad that she had Kevin there to make sure she was okay. Having always been a sensible drinker in the past, she had never been this wasted before, and all Jessica wanted was to go to sleep and never wake up. "Is Jess all right?" Dan asked Kevin, concerned. As the two emerged from the bathroom, Jessica's arm draped around Kevin's shoulders as he tried to keep her steady. "Yeah, she's just had a bit too much to drink. I think she needs to lie down. You got a bed she can have?" "Sure, you two can take my parents' room, you know where it is, right?" Dan asked Kevin. Kevin nodded. "Yep, thanks mate." Jessica was finding it hard to stay upright, and rather than have her struggle to walk upstairs, Kevin took her petite frame in his strong arms and carried her up the stairs. By the time they entered Dan's parents' bedroom, Jessica was fast asleep. Kevin lay her on the bed, and remembering that he would need to put her into a diaper quickly, before he risked her wetting the mattress, he went downstairs to find Jessica's backpack, which he knew had a couple of diapers in it. A few minutes later Kevin returned with the bag, shutting the door firmly behind him, and he was relieved to see that Jessica hadn't wet whilst he was gone. He took a nappy out of Jessica's bag and unfolded it. Laying it next to Jessica, he unbuttoned the front of her tight jeans, and slid them down her legs, exposing her black lace knickers, which he also slid off her slim legs. Jessica didn't even stir. He lifted her legs slightly in order to slide the diaper under her bottom. He pulled the front up between her legs and expertly taped it up. Jessica had a pair of lemon yellow pajamas, with a cute piglet motif on the front, packed in her bag, and Kevin decided to dress her in them in order to make her more comfortable. He removed her t-shirt and bra, and admired her figure, dressed in just the nappy, before he slipped the pajama top onto her sleeping body. And after a few seconds the pale yellow wetness indicator on her nappy started to turn blue as Jessica, still asleep and blissfully unaware of what was happening, began to wet her diaper. Kevin knew he would have to wake Jess and tell her what had happened, and he felt his anxiety levels begin to rise. Kevin knew that Dan would have to know what had happened. He'd have to wash the sheets, and maybe even the mattress, before his parents returned. Kevin also knew that Jessica would be mortified when she found out what had happened, and even more so when Kevin insisted that they told Dan. Kevin didn't want to wake Jessica. He could pretend to still be asleep. He wanted to just lie beside her, and wait for her to awaken and realize what had happened. But he knew that if he left Jessica to sleep she might wet again, and sooner or later Dan have to be told what had happened. "Jess," Kevin shook her lightly in order to wake her. "Jess, wake up, you've leaked a bit." Jessica groaned and rolled over, not taking in what Kevin was saying. However, as she rolled over in the bed she felt the cold, damp patch on her pajamas rub against her thighs, and she knew at once that she had wet the bed. It took her a couple more seconds to realize that not only had she wet the bed, but she was at Dan's house, in his parents' bed. Jessica immediately started to cry. "You said you'd look after me," she sobbed to Kevin. "How could you let me sleep without a diaper on?" "I didn't," Kevin replied indignantly. "Look, I did put one on you." Jessica touched her crotch, and realized at once that Kevin was telling the truth. "Your diaper must have leaked." Kevin continued, "Don't worry though, I'll go and talk to Dan for you. The bed's not very wet, he'll just need to wash the sheets." Jessica paled. "You can't tell him. He won't say anything to anyone else, you know he won't. After Connor texted him, he texted me back to tell me he thought I was well out of order spreading stuff like that around. He's not going to mention it to anyone. You go and have a shower and get yourself cleaned up and I'll sort it out. You can pretend it never happened." Whilst Jessica showered, Kevin went to find Dan, who was downstairs in his living room, attempting to clear up the large quantity of empty cans and bottles littering every available surface. "Hey Dan, can I talk to you for a second?" Kevin looked at the large group of people who were also gathered in Dan's living room, in private. "Sorry." "Why hey, get in there Dan," laughed one of the boys sprawled out across an armchair. "Is there something you're not telling us, Kev?" Kevin chuckled. "Yeah, I've been secretly lusting after Dan for years." He turned to Dan. "Come on baby, let's go someplace private." Kevin followed Dan into his kitchen, closing the door behind them. "Everything all right mate?" Dan asked. Not exactly. Kevin was beginning to feel a little embarrassed about telling Dan Jessica's secret. "It's Jess, she wet the bed last night." "Shit man," Dan didn't know what to say. "Is the mattress ruined?" "No, it wasn't a lot. You can't go spreading this around, but it happens every night. She wears a diaper to bed, it just leaked a bit, it's only the sheets that are a bit damp. The mattress is fine, but she's kind of upset about it. She didn't really want me to tell you, but the sheets will need to be washed so I told her I'd have to. Don't say anything to her though, please, she's really embarrassed. And don't mention it to anybody else, she's really sensitive about it, she gets upset about people knowing." "Yeah, sure, I'm not going to tell anyone. It's not her fault, is it? That text you sent out last week though, does she know about that?" "Yeah, I didn't send it, my brother did." He found out about Jess after she stayed at my house. He took my phone and texted all the people whose names he recognized. Kevin explained, I wouldn't ever tell anybody about it. Even if we broke up and I hated her, I wouldn't spread her secrets around. That's well harsh of your brother, Dan remarked. Yeah, well he's a little shit, retorted Kevin. He wouldn't dare mention it again though, he's still being punished now. My mum went mad when she found out. Found out what? The two were interrupted as Lucy and Kate entered the room. Nothing, Dan and Kevin quickly replied in unison. Both girls looked unconvinced, but they didn't push the two guys any further. Is Jess up yet? Kate asked. Yeah, she's just having a shower, Kevin told her. She'll probably be down in a minute. A short while later Jessica had joined her friends downstairs, and was trying to forget the wet sheet still on the bed upstairs. Kevin had whispered to her that he'd spoken to Dan, who wasn't going to tell anyone, but Jessica still felt worried that Dan might suddenly announce it to the group. And so she felt especially nervous when Dan, who Jessica had been trying to avoid, approached her. Are you okay, Jess? He asked. You were trashed last night. Jessica felt herself redden. She couldn't remember very much of the night before, but from her friends' reactions she had established that she had been very, very drunk. Yeah, I'm okay, my head hurts a little, but it's not too bad, considering. Good. Anyway, I just wanted to say not to worry about, the bed thing. I won't mention it to anyone, promise. Thanks. Jessica wasn't sure what more to say. Do you want me to wash the sheets? If you don't mind, that'd be wicked. To be honest, I'm not even sure how exactly to use a washing machine. I know there's washing powder and stuff under the sink in the kitchen. Do you want me to come and show you? Dan asked. It's okay, I'm sure I'll find it. I'll go and do it now, if that's okay. Yeah, sure thing, okay. And like I said, don't worry about it, I won't tell anyone. Dan hugged Jessica to show he meant it. Thanks Dan, Jessica smiled. Upstairs in Dan's parents' room, Jessica stripped the sheets from the bed, glad that the mattress wasn't noticeably wet, and slipped downstairs with them. Jessica hadn't expected anybody to be in the kitchen when she entered it. Dan had organized a game of frisbee in his garden and Jessica had thought everybody would be outside joining in. So Jessica was surprised to see Lucy in the kitchen, busy tidying up the inevitable mess a party creates. Hey Jess, she said, and although she glanced at the bundle of sheets in Jessica's arms, Lucy didn't mention them. Can you believe how much mess this kitchen is in? Dan's parents are back tomorrow, and I know if I leave him to clear up by himself he won't bother and the house will still be this untidy tomorrow. Jessica chuckled nervously. Yeah, I thought I'd help him do some washing. He said he doesn't even know how to use the machine. That doesn't surprise me. Lucy paused. Did you tell him why you're doing the washing? Yeah, I just didn't want his parents' sheets to smell like alcohol when they come back, Jessica lied, opening the door of the washing machine and loading the sheets into it. I mean the real reason, Lucy said. We've been friends over 2 years. Did you think I wouldn't ever put 2 and 2 together and come up with 4? I realized months ago, Jess. It's not a big deal, you don't have to hide anything from me. You don't have to hide anything from Dan either, you ought to tell him, or I could tell him if you want. Thanks, but it's okay, Kevin's already spoken to him. At the mention of Kevin, Lucy frowned. Yeah, about Kevin, Lucy paused. I've been meaning to speak to you about him. Why? What's he done? Jessica could tell by Lucy's face that she wasn't about to say something nice about Kevin. Well, a couple of weeks ago I got this text from him. That wasn't him, Jessica interrupted Lucy to leap to Kevin's defense. It was his brother. He said he'd told everyone that. He did, said Lucy. I just wasn't sure if I believed him. He was telling the truth, Jessica defended Kevin. I know he was. Okay, sorry. I didn't know he'd told you, but he has, which I guess he wouldn't do if he were lying. I just wanted to make sure you knew, that's all. Yeah, thanks, Jessica smiled. Anyway, let's go join the others. I've been thinking a lot lately, Jessica told Kevin one afternoon. Since Dan's party she had begun to realize that perhaps her bedwetting was not as much of an issue as she had always believed it would be. Not only had Kevin accepted it, but now Dan and Lucy had as well. Although she wasn't about to announce to the world that she was a bedwetter, Jessica was beginning to feel much less worried at the prospect of people finding out. She had realized that her real friends would accept all of her embarrassing secrets, and in doing so she had finally realized, with 100% certainty, that Kevin loved her. And that he wasn't pretending to accept her bedwetting just so that he could use it against her or embarrass her by telling others. About what? Kevin asked. About us moving in together. Have you come to a conclusion? I think so, Jessica nodded. I think that, if we can afford it, we should do it. That is if you still want to. Of course I do. Kevin threw his arms around Jessica. In fact, I hope you don't mind, but I've already been looking at places. A one-bedroom flat isn't very expensive round here. I found a few nice ones. Maybe we could go and look at them together sometime this week. That would be nice, Jessica agreed, although I haven't spoken to my parents about it or anything yet. They might really hate the idea of me moving out. You won't be going far though, just into town. It'll be easier for you, and for them. I know, but I want to talk it over with them first. Have you told your parents you want to move out? I told them I was thinking about it. I think they were kind of pleased. There's a bit of a weird atmosphere in the house since Connor, you know. I think Mum and Dad will be happy to have us apart. There, now all it needs a few pictures on the wall, and it'll be perfect. Kevin smiled, placing the last large box of items in the bedroom. It was less than a month after Jessica had agreed to find a flat with Kevin, and the two of them had found a flat, which was cheap, clean and, although small compared to their parents' houses, roomy enough for just the two of them. They had a good-sized bedroom, plus a small room next to it, which currently lay empty, but could become a spare bedroom if they were to buy a bed for it. Then there was a generous-sized living room, a bathroom, and a newly fitted kitchen. And with some help from their parents they had finally finished furnishing it, and were ready to call it home. Wow, I can't believe we're going to be living here, together. Kevin grinned at Jessica. I know, it's fantastic. No one to disturb us, no one to tell us what to do or make us tidy our room and stuff. I hope that doesn't mean our room's going to be a mess. I expect you to do your fair share of the washing up. Jessica said lightheartedly. What? I thought the whole deal was you get the privilege of living with me, and in return you do all of the washing up. Kevin retorted jokingly. The end.